Hello, welcome to Zigmatech Learning Hub. I'll be your instructor for English language. For this class, we are going to be taking our exercises from the ExamGuide app. If you don't have the application already installed on your device, I will want you to download the app in order to follow along in the class. ExamGuide is a leading educational app that helps students prepare adequately for various exams like UTME, post-UTME, WEAC, GCE, KCPE, IJMB, JUPEB, Cowbellpedia, BESE, JSCE, NCEE, NECO, etc. You can download the app from www.examguide.com or Google Play Store. Please subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell to be updated on new videos. Ready for today's class? Okay, let's get started. It's another English class, and today we'll be looking at direct and indirect speech. Very interesting topic, a dicey one at that, but trust me, by the end of the class, we should be able to have a thorough understanding of the topic, direct and indirect speech. To achieve a holistic understanding, we would like to consider these specific objectives. So the first point of call is for us to define direct and indirect speech, state the basic rules of direct and indirect speech, finally state important word changes, state important word changes, how words are used differently in direct and indirect speech. Let's get started. What is direct speech? What is direct speech? You will agree with me that it will be out of place for us to just delve into examples of direct speech or indirect speech, or rather, let's say, converting direct speeches to indirect speeches without, first of all, getting the definition of these keywords. Now, when we talk about direct speech, a particular keyword should come to mind, and that is quoted speech. Quoted speech is very important. Sometimes you could hear people say quoted speech, while some people refer to it as direct speech. Now, when we talk about direct speech, we refer to the exact words of the speaker. That's just a very simple definition for direct speech. Aside the fact that another word for it is quoted speech, it refers to the exact words of the speaker. Now let's look at the definition we have here. It said direct speech is exactly what it sounds like. Text that reports the exact thoughts expressed by a person in their original form. It has not been alterated, nothing has been changed. The way the speaker is saying it, that is how it is. Now it says it is often enclosed in quotation marks. It is often enclosed in quotation marks. That is how it is. That is why it's called quoted speech, because it's in a quotation mark. Now, it can be a singular quotation mark or the double quotation mark. Whichever you choose to use is acceptable. One is the British, that is a single quotation mark, while the double quotation mark is the American form of using quotation mark. Now, you must have it at the back of your mind that direct speech must come with quotation mark. If it's not in a quotation mark, then it's not a direct speech. Remember, I said that another word for direct speech is quoted speech. It's referred to as quoted speech because it's the speaker speaking. The original speaker, the original words of the speaker is what is being said. Right? So it must be in a quotation mark so that the reader understands that the quoted text is the speaker's original narrative. It's no other person's, but the speaker's original narrative, the way the speaker presented it at the time when the listener was listening to what the speaker was saying. So that is how it is. Remember, direct speech is referred to as quoted speech. And this is what we have. We will have direct and indirect speech. Now, I would just want to take the direct speech. Now, look at this example. It says you can answer the question, what did he say or what did she say, in two ways. Number one way is by repeating the words spoken. That is the direct speech, when you repeat the words that have been said. Now, the second way of answering the question is by reporting the words that have been spoken. That is indirect or reported speech. Now, let's look at this example. It says, I am happy. The lady here, Sienna, is saying, I am happy. Now, we have someone who wants to give the exact words of Sienna. And that's the direct speech, the quoted speech. You see that this is in a quotation mark. Sienna said, that's what Sienna said. The speaker now is repeating the exact words of Sienna. He says, Sienna said, I am happy. That's the direct speech, also called quoted speech. So this is the exact words of Sienna. That is, I am happy. Now for the indirect, which is the reported, someone wants to report what she heard that was said by Sienna. And she is saying, Sienna said she was happy. I would like us to look at two striking things. Now, in the direct speech, we notice that the personal pronoun, that's the first person pronoun I, in the direct speech, was changed at the point of indirect or reported speech. And it was changed to she. Why? Because she is reporting. The speaker here is reporting the exact words of Sienna, and as such, shouldn't make use of I because she is not the one speaking. Remember, she's reporting a speech already made by the original speaker. So she has to change the first person pronoun to the third person pronoun. If it were to be that we had a boy speaking, we would change it to maybe let's say Alfred said he was happy. No more she. But because we have a female, the gender is female, we have to change the I to he. So it's not compulsory that once you see I, it has to be she. It depends on the gender of the person that is talking. So where you have your personal pronoun, first person pronoun I, you have to change it to she or he when you are reporting. But when it's the direct speech, is in direct speech, it has to be I, be it feminine or masculine. Now, another thing we noticed in the direct speech that changed in the indirect speech is auxiliary verb. Here we have I am happy for the direct speech, but coming to the indirect speech, we have she was happy. That's a rule. When we get to that point, we will explain better and more elaborate. So we have I am happy. Here it changes to she was happy. The am changes to was, because when you're reporting, you report in the past. You don't report in the present. Now, look, remember, you can answer the question, what did he or she say, in two ways. One, by repeating the words spoken. That is what we refer to as direct speech or quoted speech. Then secondly, by reporting the words spoken, which is indirect or reported speech. Let's continue. Now, having defined direct speech as the exact words of the speaker, that is repeating what has been said in its original form, it is important that we also look at indirect speech, because we can't possibly discuss direct speech without also discussing indirect speech. They go hand in hand. Now, what is indirect speech? If you looked at the picture we used as an example, you would see where they referred to indirect speech as reported speech. Now, indirect speech basically is called or known as reported speech. Why do we refer to it as reported speech? It is referred to as reported speech because it is not the exact words of the speaker. Rather, it is what was reported or what is about to be reported by a particular speaker. Now, someone hears something and the person wants to give an account of what he or she must have heard. At that point, what the person is doing is reporting, because you are giving out words of another person, doing having the same meaning, but you are not the exact person that it happened to. So basically, you are reporting what you have witnessed, what you have heard. Now, it says that indirect speech is also called indirect narration. It's not direct. You didn't have a one-on-one encounter with the person who was speaking. Remember, it says repeating. For direct speech, you're repeating words that have been spoken, the exact words of the speaker, while in indirect, you are reporting. So at the point of reporting, there is always a tendency that you would not state it exactly the way it happened. You're stating it in a past form. And as such, it shows at the point of happening, you were not there, or you are not a direct person that it happened to. Now, we have three words that can actually define indirect speech. We have reported speech, we have indirect narration, and we have indirect discourse. Now, in grammar, when you report someone else's statement in your own words without any change in the meaning of the statement, it is called indirect speech. Reporting someone else's statement in your own words, exactly what I said. You will report it in your own words. You're saying it the way you want to say it, the way you feel it's right to say it, but not the exact words of the speaker. So at that point, it is called indirect speech. Now, this is a good example. This is indirect speech diagram. It says, what did she say? What did she say? She said that she would get a haircut. That's indirect speech. You notice one thing about indirect speech, very striking. There is no quotation. In an indirect speech, there is no quotation. Why? Because you're reporting what someone had already said in your own way, but passing the same information. Information has not been changed, but what could change could be the point that you have to change certain words, but passing the same meaning. So it is possible that in the direct speech of what did she say? She said she would get a haircut, or I shall get a haircut. That is the direct speech. Now in the indirect speech, she said that she would get a haircut. All right, let's look at this sentence example. Let's look at this sentence example, very important. Now look at the direct speech. She says, I am a little bit nervous. I am a little bit nervous. Now let's not just position our minds on basically knowing how to change from direct to indirect, but we should as well note very important things, and that's the use of the punctuation marks. Very important, because in an exam or in writing, you could be asked to move from indirect to direct. If you're not conversant with noting the punctuation marks needed in direct speech, you could fail in that exam. So now let's look at this punctuation mark. You notice that after she says, which is the reporting statement, after she says, we have a comma showing a pause, a slight pause. Not she says, I am a bit nervous. No, there is the use of the punctuation marks depicts a whole lot of things and passes informations at every point in time. So the comma passes its own information. The full stop passes its own information, likewise the quotation marks. So when you read she says, there's always a pause. So have it at the back of your mind that even in your writings, whenever you point out she says, or he says, or they say, there should be a comma. Then immediately after the comma is your quotation mark. That's the open quotation. Once you have your open quotation, the first letter must start with a capital letter. The first letter must be written in capital, and that is I am a bit nervous. After you're done with your sentence, observe your period. The period is what we commonly call the full stop. Observe your period, then give your closed quotation to show that you're finally done with what you have to say. Now, in indirect speech of she says, I am a bit nervous. I'm a little bit nervous. We have, she says that. Remember when I was introducing the direct speech and we had a little diagram explaining that, I told us that when you have I, the first person pronoun, in a direct speech, once you are changing to indirect speech, you change it based on the reporting speech. If the subject of the reporting speech is she, That means in changing from direct to indirect, you change your I, that's the first person pronoun, I, to the third person pronoun that you have in your reporting speech. The subject of your reporting speech. Your reporting speech is she says. And what is the subject of she says? That is she. So if I had he here, while changing to indirect speech, I will change this I to he, not she. So I is likened to a male or a female once you want to change it to the indirect speech. Now the indirect speech says, she says that she is a little bit nervous. We are changing am to is because I'm reporting. So I have to report what has happened. I'm not the one undergoing whatever, but some other person is undergoing the process of being nervous. Yes. So because I'm not the one, I'm reporting what I heard, I will report she is. I'm not she. I can't say she am, or I can't say I am, because I am not the one experiencing it. All right, let's look at this explanation. It says, in the first sentence, the writer conveys the girl's message using her actual words. The writer conveys the girl's message using her actual words, and that's the direct speech or quoted speech. Example, I am a little bit nervous. She says, I am a little bit nervous. Now, in the second sentence, the writer conveys her message, remember I told you the information remains the same, but certain things are to change. Now, it says the writer conveys her message, but in his own words, without changing the meaning. Very important. Do not change the original meaning of the statement. Do not change the original meaning of the sentence. Rather, you only pass it in a reported form. That is in your indirect speech. So thus, direct and indirect speech report a person's statement in different ways. We said it, that the direct is repeating. There are two ways of answering a question raised by a person. Either you repeat the exact words of the speaker, or you report the words. So when you are repeating, you're doing direct speech, and when you are reporting, you're doing indirect speech. Let's not get confused. Repeat, they both start with R. Repeat is for direct, and that is where you put your quotation mark, while reporting is for indirect. There is no room for the quotation mark. Now let's look at the grammatical aspect of both. Yes. Now look at, we have the reporting speech, reported speech, reporting verb, and the reported verb. These keywords are very important. They are very important. Now, the first one says reporting speech. The first part of the direct speech is called reporting speech. And what's the first part of the direct speech? It is she says. I once made mention of it. She says is the first part of the reporting speech. All right? So we have the direct speech, rather. The first part of the direct speech is the reporting speech. And what is it? She says. Now, after she says, you have the reported speech. That is what you have said. The second part of the sentence, which is enclosed in inverted commas or quotation marks, is called the reported speech. I am a little bit nervous. I am a little bit nervous. Then you have the reporting verb, which is says. The reporting verb is says. Then finally, you have the reported verb, which is am. These things are very important because they are the key things we have to get abreast with as long as direct and indirect speech are concerned. Now let's look at some basic rules. Basic rules of direct and indirect speech. Now note this, that there are certain changes in the person of pronouns. I've earlier on explained it, but it's pertinent that we go through it once again. Now, first person pronouns in reported speech are always changed according to the subject of the reporting speech. We just finished the reporting speech, reported speech, reporting verb, the reported verb. Now, we said that the first person pronouns, which is I and we, are reported speech. In reported speech, rather, are always changed according to the subject of the reporting speech. Now, when we looked at the other example, we talked about the reporting speech. Then in the reporting speech, we had she says. Now, it's possible for us to also have they say. Now, because we have she says, it says, if you have the reporting speech as she says, that means if I'm changing to indirect speech, my indirect speech has to change to she has done it. Remember we had, let's look at this example. It says she says. So if I have she says, when changing to my indirect speech, it becomes she says she is a bit nervous. She says she is a bit nervous. If I had he says, when I'm changing to indirect speech, it becomes he says he is a bit nervous. So when you have your subject as she, when you're changing to your indirect speech, change your first person pronoun to the subject. If you have they say, if you have they say, we are a bit nervous. If I'm changing to indirect speech, it becomes what? They say they are a bit nervous. They were a bit nervous. Remember, you're changing to the past. They say we are a bit nervous. Now I'm changing to indirect speech. It becomes what? They say they are a bit nervous. They were a bit nervous. Always have it at the back of your mind that your verb has to change. Now the second person pronouns in reported speech are always changed according to the object of the reporting speech. According to the object of the reporting speech. So if the object of the reporting speech is you, you leave it at you. If it is, basically it has to be you, because that's a second person pronoun. The only word we have for second person pronoun is you. So second person pronouns in reported speech are always changed according to the object of the reporting speech, not the subject. So if you have she says, you will visit me tomorrow. She said, you will visit me tomorrow, because that is the object of the sentence. Finally, we have the third person pronouns in reported speech are not changed. You do not have need to change the third person in the reported speech. Now let's look at changes in verbs. If the reporting speech is in the present or future tense, then it is not required to change. Remember, your reporting speech is she says, they say, he says. Those are the main reporting speeches you could possibly have in a direct speech. Now, it is required that you do not change the verb in the reported speech. This verb could be in any tense, the present tense, past tense, or future. Now, let's look at this example. Direct speech says, he says, I am ill. He says, I am ill. Now the indirect says what? He says that he is ill. The second one, he says, she sang a song. She sang a song. She says that she sang a song. Direct speech, you say, I shall visit London. I shall visit London. You say that you will visit London. So that is it. We are changing, we are retaining everything. We're not changing to the past we're not changing it to the past. Rather, we are leaving it as it is, for the verb forms, still in the present tense or the past tense. Now, this is the word changes that we have. Now, this is direct and this is indirect. These are changes in tenses. This is very important, as this is one of the key roots that one has to be conversant with in direct and indirect speech. So if I have my direct speech tense form in the present simple, if I want to change to indirect, I will change to the past simple. If it's in present continuous, I will change to past continuous. If I have, she said, she is ill. She said, I am ill. I will change it to she said, she was ill. So that is it, changing from simple present to simple past. Now, if it's in present continuous, she said, I am coming home. Then I'm changing to past continuous. She said, she was coming home. You have in the past simple to past perfect. Past simple to past perfect. She said she has gone home. It will be she said. In the past perfect, it becomes she said she had gone home. She said she had gone home. So these are key things we must know. Now, if I have will future, it becomes would, that have to be there. If I have can changes to could, have to has to change to had to. Then imperative, which is a command, to the infinitive, which is your to before a verb. Now let's look at this, changes in tense. Very important, changes in tense. Don't just get yourself confused. We want to look at changes in tense, not just about changing from direct to indirect. No, we want to look at the changes both in tense and in certain words. There are certain words that change in direct and indirect speech. What you have in direct speech, at the point of changing to indirect, the words change. Now look at this example. It says, I will call you tomorrow. I will call you tomorrow. It's just like saying he said, I will call you tomorrow, or she said, I will call you tomorrow. This is the direct speech. Now we are changing to indirect. Said, she said that he would call me the next day. Very important. Now look at the word changes. We changed the tense, which is will, present, to would, which is the past. And again, we changed tomorrow to the next day. So wherever you have tomorrow in a direct speech, you're changing to your indirect speech, you're changing it to the next day. So if you have will, you're changing will to would. That's the reported speech. Now look at this. It says present continuous is changed into past continuous. Present continuous is changed into past continuous. The direct speech says they said. What's the present continuous in this sentence? Are taking. That's the present continuous. That is ongoing. When you say that it's continuous, that's progressive. So is that called present continuous or present progressive? So he said they are taking a walk every day. Remember when we were looking at certain personal pronouns that ought to be changed and ought not to be changed, we said we do not change the third person pronoun, and they is a third person pronoun. The way it appears in the direct speech, that's the same way it appears in the indirect speech. The way it appears in the direct speech is the way it appears in the indirect speech. The only one that changes, it's our first person pronoun, where you have I changing to he or she, and where you have we changing to they. But here the direct speech says, they are taking a walk every day. So we are changing the present continuous to past continuous. So it becomes, in our indirect speech, they said that they were taking a walk every day. So you see that we changed are, which is in present continuous, to were, which is the past continuous. One of the rules we looked at, don't forget, that when you have a present continuous in the direct speech, you want to change to indirect speech, you're changing it to your past continuous tense. All right, let's look at another tense rule that must appeal to us, and that is the present perfect continuous tense is changed into past perfect continuous tense. Please, let's not get it twisted. Permit me to use that word, but we must learn these things. Remember we said present, simple present changes to simple past, and present continuous changes to past continuous. We said the present perfect changes to past perfect, and now we are here saying that present perfect continuous tense changes to past perfect continuous tense. I told us that when we hear the word continuous, it means progressive, and it takes that ing verb form. Now, the direct speech here says they said they have been taking a walk since morning, and the indirect is they said that they had been taking a walk since morning. All right. The next one says past continuous tense is changed into past perfect continuous tense. Very important. Past continuous tense is changed into past perfect continuous tense. Now this says they said they were taking a walk. Past, taking, continuous. Past, where continuous taking. All right? So we want to change it to indirect speech. What do we have here? He says they said that they had been taking a walk, because we're changing the past continuous to past perfect. And past perfect is had been. Yes, that's your past perfect. So we are putting it into the past perfect continuous, which is had been taking a walk. Now we have in future tense, no changes are made except shall and will are changed into would. Shall and will are changed into would. In future tense, no changes are made except shall and will are changed into would. So we have this example, direct speech. They said they will take a walk. So the indirect becomes they said that they would take a walk. If we had they said they shall take a walk, it becomes they said that they would take a walk. Now let's look at another word changes. I love this one so much, and we must know them. Remember, you don't need the question, rather the textbook, for you to answer this. It's just what you have to position your mind to understudy and know which word suits which. Because by the time we are done with this, you're expected to do an activity to test your knowledge on how far you have learnt the taught topic. Now, these are word changes, very important. In one of the examples I showed us, we saw some word changes, even at the fact that we needed to look at the tense changes, but we ended up seeing some word changes about tomorrow changing to the next day. So these are word changes. These are your direct speech, when you are speaking in a quoted speech, when you're speaking in the exact words of the speaker, when you're repeating what the speaker has said. These are the words you use. So when you want to change the words of the speaker, but passing the same information, which we said is indirect speech, you use this word. So where we have this changes to that in an indirect speech. Where we have these changes to those, and where we have here changes to there. Something calls my attention to these 4 words. Now these 4 words are called demonstrative pronouns. They are demonstrative pronouns. They are pronouns that point to things. Now where this is a singular of these, that is the singular of those. And where these 2 are singular, these 2 are plural. Now where these 2, this and these, are nearness demonstrative pronouns, that and those are farness demonstrative pronouns. So once you're using them, you must use them in that light. Now let's look at these direct speech examples using the word changes. He says, I want to buy this book. I want to buy this book. So if I'm changing to the indirect, it becomes, he said that he wants to buy that book. He wants to buy that book. It's no more, he wants to buy this book again. No, something has to change because you're reporting. He says he wants to buy that book. The book is not closed. It's far. It's not with you. It's with the original speaker. And as such, at the point of reporting, what you have to say is that he said that he wants to buy that book. Now, these changes to those are almost the same thing, but the difference has to do with the choice of noun. The noun has to be in the plural form, but it's still the same thing. He says, I want to buy these books. And he said, I want to buy these books. So it becomes, he says that he wants to buy those books. He said that he wants to buy those books. So at what point do I change? Do I use these and those? And at what point do I use this and that? I just explained it. When you're talking about a singular noun, you use this and that. That at the point of indirect, and these at the point of direct. Now, when you're talking about the plural nouns, you use these and those. These at the point of direct, and those at the point of indirect. Another example is here and there. She says everybody was here. You're changing to indirect speech. Here changes to there. These are common word changes. So she says that everybody was there. Now changes to them. Now changes to them. It says, they say, it's 10 o'clock now. It's 10 o'clock now. So at the point of reporting, it has to be, it's 10 o'clock then. It was 10 o'clock then. It was 10 o'clock then. Now, this one is very, very funny and somehow it's cool though. You said where you have sir or madam, change it to respectfully. Sir or madam changes to respectfully. Now they said, sir, the time is over. Sir, the time is over. Now in the indirect speech or the reported speech, they said respectfully that the time was over. They said respectfully that the time was over. That's the same thing with madam. They said respectfully that the time was over. So wherever you have respectfully in direct speech, you have sir or madam in your direct speech, when you want to change to indirect speech, you're using the word respectfully. I guess that one we shouldn't forget easily. Now today changes to that day. Today in direct speech, when writing in indirect, changes to that day. Now she said, I am going to London today. I am going to London today. Now changing to indirect speech says, she said that she was going to London that day. She said that she was going to London that day. That is it. She said that she was going to London that day. Now we have yesterday changes to the previous day. Where you have yesterday, change it to the previous day. She said, I visited Oxford University yesterday. So if you want to change to indirect speech, it becomes, she said that she visited Oxford University the previous day. She had visited the Oxford University the previous day. Remember, the word visited is in the past, so you have to change it to the past. Yes, the past perfect. We're changing it. So this is, I visited Oxford yesterday. So we are changing to, she said that she had visited Oxford University the previous day. Tomorrow changes to the following day or next day. The following day or next day. So she said, I am going to London tomorrow. I'm going to London tomorrow. So changing in the indirect becomes, she said that she was going to London the following day. She said that she was going to London the following day, or she said that she was going to London the next day. Tomorrow changes to the following day or the next day. Whichever one you use in your indirect speech is perfect. So tonight changes to that night. Tonight changes to that night. She said, I am going to see him tonight. She said, I am going to see him tonight. In the reported speech, it becomes, she said that she was going to see him that night. She said that she was going to see him that night. Finally, we have good morning, good evening, good day. Good morning, good evening, good day. It changes to greeted. She greeted Sir David. Now, the example says she said, good morning, Sir David. Good morning, Sir David. Now, we want to change to indirect speech. Very simple. She greeted Sir David. She greeted Sir David. She greeted Sir David. All right. That will be that for word changes in direct and indirect speech. Please do not forget, this changes to that. These changes to those. Here changes to dear. And we have now changes to then, sir, and madam reads respectfully in their indirect. Today changes to that day. Yesterday changes to previous day. Tomorrow changes to the following day or next day. Tonight changes to that night. While good morning, good evening, or good day, it's changed to greeted. Now this is our task. The task says, change these direct speeches to indirect. Change the direct speeches to indirect. I would be expecting your answers in the comment box. I'll be expecting your answers in the comment box. Okay, having finished the topic, I would like that we take one exercise from our app. We'll have to take one exercise from our app. Let's get started. Okay, look at this example. It says, direct speech rates, they have gone home, John said. Okay, fine. It can also be written in this format, having your quoted speech before the reporting speech. Having your quoted speech before the reporting speech. Now, they say they have gone home, said John. Now, basically what we have to change now will be the tense. This tense is in the present perfect. Present perfect. So we have to change it to the past perfect. In indirect speech, it becomes what? John said that they had gone home. John said that they had gone home. It can be they have gone home, repeating the same thing. That means you never reported. Has gone home. It's not possible because has, it's also in the present perfect. But the only difference is that while have speaks of plural, has speaks of singular. All right, now we've come to our answer, and the answer is C. They had gone home. Thank you for participating in today's class. You can practice more questions using the ExamGuide app. The app scores and gives a detailed explanation of all the questions at the end of your practice test. You can learn a particular topic of interest with different modes like study mode, mock mode, and practice mode. It also has other features that make learning fun. It is a must-have for all serious students. Download from www.examguide.com if you don't have it yet. See you in the next class. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, hit the notification bell, and share the videos to people that will benefit from it. Bye.